All right, let's dive into a really powerful idea. What if the key to better games isn't just about making better players, but about designing better games? We're going to use Dr. Tim Hopper's brilliant work in Pickleball as our guide to unlock how you can create play that's way more fun, a lot more fair, and actually makes people learn faster.
You know the scene, right? We've all been there. One player is just crushing it, probably getting bored, while the other person is totally overwhelmed, super discouraged, nobody's having fun, and even worse, nobody is actually learning anything. It's the kind of game where, really, nobody wins.
So, here it is, the big shift in thinking. What if the problem isn't the skill gap between the players? What if the problem is the game itself? Just asking that one question, well, it changes everything. It gives us the power to stop being just instructors and to start thinking like game designers.
And that leads us to a whole new way to approach this. See, a game isn't just a competition. It's a living, breathing, learning environment. And our job as the designers is to shape that environment. To do that, though, there's one key concept you really have to get your head around. And that concept is what Dr. Hopper calls the action space. You can think of it like this. It's everything a player can do at any given moment. It's a mix of their own skills, yeah, but also the rules of the game, the equipment, and maybe most importantly, what their opponent is doing.
And when you look at it this way, the difference is just night and day. When those action spaces are totally unequal, the game just falls apart. Points are over in a flash, and nobody's engaged. But when you get them to be compatible, that's when the magic happens. The rallies get longer, both players are actually challenged, and they start having what Dr. Hopper calls a movement conversation. They're literally learning from each other just by playing.
And that, right there, that's the ultimate goal. The idea is to design a game so perfectly balanced that the game itself becomes the teacher. A game where players are so locked into this fun, competitive rally that they just intuitively show each other how to get better.
Okay, so how do we actually build these perfectly balanced games? Well, lucky for us, we've got a toolkit. So let's open it up and see what's inside. First up, we need to understand the difference between strategy and tactics.
Think about it like this. Strategy is your why. It's the big picture plan. And pretty much any net game, the main strategy is super simple. Keep the ball in play. Tactics, on the other hand, are your how. They're the specific moves you make to pull off that strategy, like hitting a certain shot to give yourself more time to get ready for the next one.
And we can break those tactics down into 4 core ingredients that we as the game designers get to play with. Think of these like the dials on a mixing board. We can adjust the time a player has, the space they have to cover, the amount of force they can put on the ball, and the level of risk we want them to take. By turning these dials, we completely change the game.
And this isn't some new idea. Check out this quote from Bunker and Thorpe, who were pioneers in this stuff way back in 1986. It is axiomatic that alterations to the rules of a game will have implications for the tactics to be employed. Fancy words, but what it really means is, if you change the rules, you change how people play. Simple as that. The rules are the game. So, with that in mind, here are the 3 big tools for our design toolkit. First, you've got representative games, basically simplified versions of the real game to focus on the basics. Then there are exaggeration games, where you tweak the rules to force players to solve one specific problem. And my personal favorite, modification by adaptation, where the rules actually change as you play to keep the challenge just right for everyone.
All right, that's enough theory. Let's see what this actually looks like on the court. We're going to break down a couple of really cool pickleball games to show you exactly how these design tools create better, more engaging play.
Let's start with just a brilliant example of modification by adaptation. It's a tiny rule change you can give to a player who's struggling, and it instantly levels the playing field. It's called the self-rally.
It's so simple, but it's incredibly effective. Here's how it works. Instead of having to hit the opponent's shot back right away, the player gets an extra touch. They can pop the ball straight up to themselves, let it bounce, get their feet set, and then hit a controlled shot back. This one little change gives them the time they need to stay in the point and actually compete. It's a game changer. Okay, so that was a simple adaptation for a one-on-one situation. Now let's level up. Let's look at a more complex game that cleverly weaves together multiple design tools to keep a whole group of players learning and having fun on just one court. It's called Monarch of the Court.
Now look at how cleverly this thing is designed. The goal is simple. Win 3 points in a row, become the monarch. But check out the tactical elements baked right in. That going for 3 rule, that's pure risk and pressure. The bonus point for a volley, that's an exaggeration designed to get players comfortable coming to the net.
And the adaptation rule, where the monarch loses their self-rally advantage, that automatically keeps the game balanced.
So just think about everything that's happening here. In one single, beautifully designed game, you've got players practicing serves, returns, and volleys. They're learning to manage pressure and make smart choices. The coach barely has to say a thing, because for every single player on that court, the game itself is doing all the teaching.
So what these examples really show us is that this is about so much more than just running a few fun drills. It's about a huge shift in how we see our role as coaches. It's about moving away from being just an instructor who feeds information and becoming a designer of experiences. Your real power isn't just teaching a forehand. It's creating an environment where learning happens naturally, where every single player feels challenged and where they can discover solutions on their own, all through the sheer joy of a really good competitive game.
So let's wrap this all up. What's the bottom line? First, remember, a game is a learning environment. Your main job is to balance everyone's action spaces so they can all get in on the fun. To do that, you've got 3 powerful tools: representation, exaggeration, and adaptation. And remember, when you change the rules, you change how people play and what they learn. The real goal here is to make play that is competitive, fun, and educational for everybody.
And that brings us to the last, most important question. The next time you walk out onto a court, or a field, or a gym, don't just think, what drill are we going to run today? Instead, think like a designer. Ask yourself, what experience do I want to create? How will you design your next game?